Dexter Morgan was not just a forensic expert in Miami Metro, it was a master manipulator. For years, he used his position to gain the trust of all those around him, all while hiding his darker secret. His quiet and compound exterior masked a mortal truth, and his ability to manipulate the closest to him allowed him to lead a double life without suspicion. So how did Dexter control those around him and maintain his hidden murderers for so long? We are going to break it down, one colleague at the same time. James Dokes. It all starts with James Dokes. From the moment he met Dexter, something did not sit well with him. Dokes' instincts were acute, and they told him that Dexter was hiding something. Dexter's quiet behavior stood out against the chaos and the violence of the crime scenes in which they worked. While all the others reacted with shock and disgust, Dexter remained mysteriously composed, and that was exactly what raised the suspicions of Dokes. But Dexter was not worried. Instead, he manipulated the situation, feeding the paranoia of Dokes, making him seem obsessed and deranged. Dexter knew exactly how to press Takiki's buttons and how to take advantage of his growing frustration. Every time Dokes approached the truth, Dexter subtly changed the narrative, turning the tables. Dexter did not need to face Dokes in front. He simply played the victim. He was the one who was harassed, unjust, and accused. In responding with confusion and defense, Dexter caused Dokes' suspicions to seem more of an irrational obsession. Dexter perfected the art of gaslighting, which makes Dokes doubt his instincts while simultaneously reinforcing his image as the quiet and collected expert. Every time Dokes felt more frustrated, Dexter remained cool, almost disconcertingly, which made Dokes' concerns seem less credible. Dexter's manipulation was subtle but effective. He didn't need to raise his voice or be aggressive. He simply had to keep the perfect facade of innocence. But Dokes was just the beginning. What happens when someone else in Miami Metro begins to see through Dexter's mask? How long can Dexter maintain this intricate network of lies before someone finally begins to question their impeccable performance? Deborah Morgan, Dexter's adoptive sister, should have been the only person to see through her deception. She loved him unconditionally, maybe more than anyone in her life. Dexter knew it and played in that love to keep her in the dark. Deborah is fiercely loyal to him, and she trusts him implicitly. For her, Dexter was not just her brother. She was her protective, the only person who believed she would never disappoint her, even when things around her seemed suspicious. Every time Deborah questioned him, Dexter subtly turned his doubts into tranquility. He would convince her that he was still the same person he admired. When she felt uncomfortable with her behavior, he made her feel responsible for protecting him, for being the one he understood. Dexter's manipulation was one of the most personal, the most cruel, because he knew exactly how to pull his heart. He used his loyalty as a weapon, making him believe that his actions, however dark, were justified. He appeared as a man who struggled to control his darkest impulses, not someone who was consumed by them. For Deborah, he became a matter of protecting him, of believing in him even when she should not. But that trust, so carefully cultivated, was shattered the day Deborah entered Dexter killing Travis Marshall. The basis of their relationship, based on years of loyalty and love, collapsed at that time. Dexter did what he always did. He immediately manipulated the situation. He calmed her, told her what she needed to listen, and twisted the narrative in her favor. Dexter played in his emotions, as he had done countless times before, making him believe that what she had witnessed was something necessary, which was part of a greater good. The lie continued, and Deborah's confusion was just another step in the relentless need for Dexter to maintain control. But even Deborah, with all his love for him, was not immune to the discovered truth. Detective Angel Batista was another key player in the Dexter manipulation network. Angel, like many others, fully trusted Dexter. He admired his forensic experience and trusted him during the investigations. Dexter was not just another colleague, he was the man whom everyone turned to when they needed answers. He played the perfect role, the reliable expert, the quiet and competent professional, always there to solve the case and provide a valuable vision. For Angel, Dexter was not just the quiet and strange forensic analyst, he was the hero of each research. Dexter was the one who always had the answers, the one who knew exactly what to do in each situation. Dexter's domain of manipulation was in his ability to play the perfect role. He delivered the right information at the right time, never made an error. He always positioned himself as the expert in which he could be trusted. Being the model colleague, who never raised suspicions, Dexter made sure that no one thought about questioning him. Every time Angel was in a tight place, Dexter was always there, offering the perfect solution. But Dexter's Angel manipulation was deeper than just being useful. He made sure that Angel never looked at him too closely, that he felt too comfortable in the belief that Dexter was as normal as they. He knew that at the time Angel began to interrogate him, his entire facade could fall. Then, he kept Angel in the dark, making sure that Angel's confidence was solid, and his perception of Dexter as the good guy was never hesitant. The carefully constructed image of Dexter as the reliable and indispensable forensic expert maintained the intact facade for years. The confidence that Angel had in him was one of Dexter's best assets. Angel saw him as a model colleague, the man who always did the job, the man who could not be wrong. This trust was exactly what Dexter needed to continue his double life without anyone questioning his actions. Even when Angel saw Dexter's behavior as a bit off, he ruled it as part of Dexter's peculiarities. But, as always, the truth was unraveled. Angel's trust in Dexter broke and got caught in a manipulation network. The suspicions of Maria Laguerta were perhaps the most dangerous for Dexter. She was an experienced, acute, and methodical researcher. Unlike some of his colleagues, Laguerta not only trusted the feelings of the intestinal, it was driven by facts, evidence, and logic. When he found the sliding of the blood on the crime scene, he immediately caught his attention. His mind was directly on Bay Harbor Butcher, the serial killer who had evaded justice for so long. Without hesitation, he began connecting the points, and his research on Dexter began. Dexter was not worried. He knew exactly how to handle this. He did not face his suspicion directly, on the other hand. He used it to his advantage. Dexter was strategic, always calculating his next movement. He fed enough information to keep it distracted, moving it away from the truth without lying directly. Dexter carefully elaborated his role as a reliable ally, someone who was as invested in solving the Bay Harbor Butcher case as her. He did not reject his investigations, but guided them subtly in the wrong direction, feeding it enough to create confusion. Dexter was playing a game, and every time Laguerta approached the truth, he planted false evidence or manipulated the circumstances for his advantage. He suggested new potential red herring customers who sent it further. With each piece of bad direction, Dexter made him question his conclusions, eroding his confidence in his research. Dexter not only kept one step forward, but he planted seeds in the mind of Laguerta, making him believe that he was wrong, that his instincts had failed him. This strategic manipulation finally brought Laguerta to an inevitable dead end. His search for truth, once so acute and inflexible, became his fall. Dexter's ability to control the flow of information, to push it towards blind alleys, said he would never approach enough to unmask it. Laguerta's tenacity was his strength, but he became his weakness when he could not see that manipulation occurred just under his nose. But Laguerta was not the only one that Dexter had under his control. Masuka was the forensic expert who worked with Dexter, often with inappropriate humor and cheerful jokes. Despite its comic exterior, Masuka was not dumb. He had an acute mind, especially when it came to the complexities of the crime scenes. He was not the type of person who would lose detail, but Dexter knew exactly how to use Masuka's personality to his advantage. When interpreting the act as silly but brilliant, Dexter was able to hide his true nature. The externally playful Masuka never questioned Dexter's oddities because he was too distracted by the camaraderie of his work. Dexter's dark side remained well hidden behind the facade of an eccentric and good-humored colleague. Dexter skillfully manipulated his Manuka perception as the great type, which always had the perfect and peculiar comment for any situation. Masuka saw Dexter as a bit strange, but never as a threat. Dexter's ability to keep Masuka entertained with jokes and mood out of color kept him along the arm. Dexter was always the charming and unconventional character in the room, and Masuka, wrapped in his eccentricities, did not feel the need to deepen Dexter's actions. When Dexter did something that could be seen as a suspect, Masuka ruled out as part of his strange charm. After all, Dexter was a bit eccentric, right? But Dexter's manipulation did not stop there. He used Masuka's own need for humor and distraction as a tool to prevent any real suspicion from forming. Every time Masuka began to question Dexter's actions, Dexter deviated with another joke, another strange joke, or a perfectly timed laugh. I knew that keeping things light could easily divert Masuka's attention away from anything that could be too investigative. Masuka was never really a threat to Dexter. It was a tool, a pawn in Dexter's biggest game. Dexter kept him entertaining and distracted, knowing that Masuka would never think too much about his behavior. About Masuka, Dexter was the strange but adorable colleague who always had the answers when it came to forensic labor, not someone capable of killing. Dexter knew exactly how to use Masuka's perception to prevent him from looking too closely. But even the most foreign characters can have their moments. What happens when Dexter's manipulations finally reach it? When intelligent distractions, jokes, and deviations can no longer protect it from the truth? Could anyone like Masuka, in your way, discover a piece of the puzzle? Or the control of Dexter in his life carefully elaborated would finally begin to slip? And then there was FBI agent Frank Lundy. Lundy's participation in the Bay Harbor Butcher case was one of Dexter's greatest threats. Unlike his colleagues in Miami Metro, Lundy was not easily influenced by Dexter's charm or professionalism. It was not welcomed by the carefully built facade of Dexter. Lundy was an experienced, methodical, and determined researcher. He saw through the layers of deception and recognized the patterns in Dexter's behavior that others overlooked. For Lundy, Dexter was not just another forensic expert. He was a suspect potentially, an interesting person who could be hiding a dark and mortal secret. Dexter knew that Lundy was dangerous. Lundy's acute eye for detail and his focus on the truth made him one of the most formidable threats that Dexter had faced. Lundy's determination to find Bay Harbor Butcher only became stronger with every day that passed, and as his research on Dexter deepened, he brought him closer to the truth. Dexter knew that if Lundy found the connection between him and the murders, everything he had worked on would crash. He could not afford to allow this FBI agent to expose it. So Dexter did what did better. He manipulated the investigation. He planted false evidence, directed the case of the course, and slowly fed the deceitful leaders who took him away from the truth. Dexter knew that the more confusion I could create, the more time I could buy time. He manipulated each interaction with Lundy, making sure that the FBI agent was never too close to breaking the case. Dexter also used Lundy's ego against him, presenting himself as a useful ally in the investigation. When feeding Lundy with enough information to look credible, Dexter positioned himself as an asset for Lundy's mission, as long as he made sure Lundy never rebuilt the truth. But Lundy was relentless. Even when Dexter thought he had everything under control, Lundy was one step ahead, quietly piecing together the twisted nature of the Bay Harbor Butcher and the connection between the crimes. His obsession to solve the case made him blind to the false paths that Dexter put, but also kept Dexter on the edge. In the end, however, Lundy's approach to Dexter could have been his fall. His determined search for the truth kept him locked in Dexter. But fate took a different turn. The carefully elaborate manipulations of Dexter, combined with an unfortunate series of events, took Sergeant Doakes framed as Bay Harbor Butcher. This turn not only diverted Lundy's investigation, but also allowed Dexter to move away unharmed, his double life intact. Detective Quinn was another member of Miami Metro whom Dexter manipulated, although perhaps more easily than others. Quinn fought with his moral conflicts, often divided between his responsibilities and personal desires. Dexter knew how to exploit this, particularly the need for Quinn's recognition and validation within the Miami subway. Distracted by his personal life and ambitions, Quinn became susceptible to Dexter's influence.